Hello everybody, welcome back to the show. I am your host. You can call me Khan. That is the name that I go by. Ungod, I think you asked how to pronounce my name. My username is Conceptum, which is something that I made up. But my friends all call me Khan, so please just call me Khan. It's so much simpler, and I'm very much used to it. Now, in my last episode, I made a radioisotope thermal electric generator. Ta-da! And the overwhelming consensus in the comments was that this was way overpowered, and I think that I agree with you. It's interesting that Wayla shows that it's outputting 16 EU per tick, but 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, supposedly it's supposed to output 32 EU per tick when there are 6 of these pellets in there. Very interesting. Anyway, the overpoweredness of this RTG, I agree. Now, not necessarily in the sense that it provides free power with no maintenance, etc., but as Invincible said in my comments last episode, the method of obtaining these is way too simple and not very realistic. Plutonium is not an ore that should be able to be mined up with a pickaxe and then smelted to create plutonium ingots, which are then used to make these pellets. So I do agree. I had already made 2 of these. As you can see, I actually had enough to make 2 more, but I am not going to make 2 more of the RTGs. I'm going to keep the 2 I have for now, because if I didn't have them, I'd be using the steam power. This is just a little bit easier for me, but it wouldn't matter much. As you can see over here, I'm still using lava to power my electric blast furnace. Now, I've also moved my machinery around. As you can see, I started setting up a production line, and everything is not set now because I ran into some issues. But what happens is I've got a macerator, then an ore washing plant, then a forge hammer, and then a centrifuge. Oh, I've got some magnetite in there. And basically I can drop an ore into the macerator. I get crushed ores. They go into the ore washing plant. They become purified crushed ores or something. They go into the forge hammer where they become impure ore dust. They go into the centrifuge where they become regular dust that I can then smelt or recentrifuge or electrolyze or do all kinds of other things with. It's actually pretty cool, but I didn't quite have the automation of this down yet, and I'm still working on that. So that's why it looks a little bit out of place. The rest of the machinery is just machinery that's used to make and build different things. And if it looks like it's in a weird configuration, that's because it is. Some of the machinery is basic machinery running off of low voltage. Some of it is the advanced machinery running off of medium voltage. So I had to run wires and stuff back here to account for all of that. What else? The electrolyzer here, when it produces oxygen gas, it goes down into the basement. I do have a railcraft tank that stores it and then automatically pipes it over here to the electric blast furnace so I can use it to make steel when I need to. So that's basically what I've been doing. I also, before I added the ore washing plant, I had it set up and all of the ores would then get piped over here into appropriate chests. So I've got iron, I've got tin and copper, and up here is antimony, up there is gold, etc., etc. So I was setting this up, and that's just using the Ender IO conduits. Not a big deal there. But despite the fact that this is free power at 32 EUs per tick, it's actually not enough to power everything if I have it on. Actually, it appears that the advanced extruder tends to use quite a bit of power to make various things, and that seems to be a bottleneck, pretty serious one. The other one that seems to be a pretty serious bottleneck is the ore washing plant. And I didn't build a basic ore washing plant. I went ahead and made an advanced one the problem with this is if you look at, say, well, let's go back here to the extruder and look at the recipes. You know, for everything you can make, it tells you how much EU it needs, what voltage it needs, how long it takes to process, etc. But when you look at the recipes for the ore washing plant, it tells you the results, but it doesn't give you any information as to how much power it takes to complete any of these operations. I don't know if they're all the same. I don't know what it is. The same thing happens with, well, the macerator doesn't do that because it shows recipes for the pulverizer, which is sort of an advanced form of a macerator. But you can see here you get an idea of what it takes. So I don't actually know how much power the advanced ore washing plant takes, but it seems that when it's running, my battery buffer that I have here will run down fairly quickly. I have a small battery buffer here which I use to recharge my drill. I've built a medium voltage drill. My low voltage drill did break. I did find out that if you use it until the durability goes away, it does break and you lose everything. However, in the comments you guys have also let me know that I need to make a disassembler, and I haven't done that yet. But the disassembler, and I've read about it, it's actually kind of cool. You put your drill in there before it breaks, and then it takes apart the pieces. And you can see, depending on what tier you make, you have 60%, 70, 80, 90, or 100% efficiency. And what that means is, I think, the individual parts that make up the drill, so in other words, each one of these little parts in a basic disassembler will have a 60% chance that it will get returned to you. And so if you can make the IV version of the disassembler, you're going to get all your pieces back. But at any of these lower tiers, you have a small chance of losing them. So only a 60% chance that only a 60% chance that you'll get any of these parts back in order to make another one. But it's still better than a 0% chance, which is what happens when you run it out of its durability. So pretty cool thing to know about that as well. Okay, so that's just a catch up on what I've been doing and learning since the last episode. I'm sure I've got some of that information wrong. As always, let me know, because I will fully admit that I don't know everything that I need to know for this mod. But in today's episode, I want to replace these RTGs. Again, I do agree that they're a little bit overpowered, not because it's free energy, but because of how the plutonium was obtained. So I want to replace them, and I'm going to replace them. And what I decided to explore was the kinetic generators from Industrial Craft. And these are kind of interesting and also a little bit on the strange side, at least for me. So one of the things that I needed to make is this turning table. And the turning table is used to make, where is it at? Was it in this thing? No, I had to use it to make something in the water generator. This iron turning blank. So you put in a blank turning blank, I guess, I don't know, with this lathing tool, and then you use the turning table in order to make it into the piece that you need. But this turning table operates on kinetic energy. It's not powered by electricity or EU. So I had to make an electric kinetic generator, and this takes EU power and converts it into kinetic power. So it's taking EU power out of this geothermal generator and putting it into kinetic energy so I can operate this turning table. So that was kind of the first thing that I learned. Unfortunately, I then sadly learned that this electric kinetic generator will constantly drain power even if you're not using the kinetic power that it generates to do anything. So yeah, I was a little bit bummed out by that. I found that out the hard way when I was all of a sudden out of power. So what I am going to do is to take that apart. There we go. and I will just set it here for now. I'll supply it with power when I need to. And this electric kinetic generator, you have to have these motors. Each motor generates, as you can see, 100 kinetic units, kinetic energy, and you can have up to 10. I discovered I only needed one, so I didn't make more than that because I didn't see any reason to. But not that the recipes are all that bad. Copper, tin, and iron is basically what I've been using to make this stuff. Okay, so using the electric kinetic generator, which turns EU into kinetic energy, I could use the kinetic energy to power a turning table, use the turning table to make those turning blanks. Or not the blank, but the fluted axle, what it says there on the second line, specific kind. But once I can make that, each one of these iron shafts requires a block of iron, so each one of those are 9 iron. But anyway, then I could make the kinetic water generator. So I made a kinetic water generator, which is somewhere, if I can find it in one of my bags. It's not in that one. It's in this one. The kinetic water generator. And so what the kinetic water generator does is it creates kinetic energy. And then in order to turn the kinetic energy into electrical energy, or EU, you hook it up to something called a kinetic generator. So I found it a little bit ironic that I had to make a device that converts EU into kinetic energy in order to make a device that will take kinetic energy and turn it into EU energy. But anyway, it does somehow work out in the end. So this water generator, I get to put it in water, and it will generate kinetic energy, and then that kinetic energy will be turned into EU energy, and then I can utilize that EU energy. But the other thing a kinetic water generator needs is it needs a rotor. And you can see here that there are 4 types of rotors. And basically, they're higher tiers. The higher the tier, the more power it's going to generate, the more kinetic power it's going to generate, and the longer it will last. There is a durability factor on these devices. Sadly, I cannot make the high-end carbon rotors because they do require a steel rotor at the center, and the steel rotor requires tungsten steel, which apparently is really difficult to make, and I don't yet have the ability to make it. So the best I can make, I should say, is an iron rotor. And I just need to finish that up. Let me see, I have some steel rings, I have a couple of iron shafts, and what I need is to take some iron plates like this, and we're going to put steel rings in the middle, iron plates along the outside, and that should give me iron rotor blades, and I want 4 of those. And so then I'm going to need a hammer and a wrench. So we'll go to this tool set here, and we put a hammer here. Where is my wrench? My wrench goes there. I believe the steel ring goes in the middle. These iron rotor blades go in that, and then these iron shafts go in the corners. So making one of these rotors requires steel ring, which is not a big deal, but 8 iron for each of these, and then 9 iron for each of these. So you're talking about 32 plus 18, or about 50 iron for one of these rotors. So I'm going to take the rotor, and I would say that comparably, as far as iron goes, the amount of iron that I've spent to make these devices is probably fairly similar to what I used to make this RTG. But yeah, without the whole plutonium, too easily obtained plutonium problem. Now, the water generator does have to be put into a river or ocean biome. Now, I thought that was pretty cool. In the past and in some other mods, you can anything that operates off of hydropower can just be put anywhere water is. I thought it was really neat that this thing actually requires it be in the correct biome type that makes sense. So I couldn't just make a pool of water and dump some sort of hydroelectric power source into it and generate easy power. I don't know why, but for me personally, I thought that was really cool. Fortunately for me, I am this little, go to my map here, this little sort of landmass that I'm on, which is kind of like this, and goes down to that. But this little landmass that I'm on, this going through around it like this is all river. So I am fortunate in that this area over here is considered to be river. So I'm in an area that's considered to be forest, and there you can see now, if you look in, what is it, that the fourth line up from the bottom, it says I am in a river biome. So all I have to do is put this thing down somewhere in the middle of this area here. But do I want to use cobblestone or dirt? I think I want to use dirt. One thing I will say I don't think I like about this is that I am essentially going to literally be placing this thing in the middle of the water. And I'm not sure of how I like the way that is, but that's the way it goes. So all I gotta do is, again, find a river biome, and I think anywhere in here is fine, and place down some blocks like this. Now, this kinetic water generator and this rotor both have to be completely submerged in water. But the rotor, when you attach it, has got a size to it. And so it's got a size of about 2 or so. I'm not exactly sure. And I'm going to go ahead and place it like right here. One thing I don't know is whether or not placing it lower would cause it to generate more power. I somehow don't think so, but you know, I don't really know how that works exactly. Now, if I access the GUI, you will see it says rotor is missing. Let me clear this because that's annoying. Rotor is missing. All I got to do is put the rotor in it. Let me grab some air. So put that in, and then you can see now there is the rotor. So you can see where I put it, the tip of the rotor, but that's just graphically is kind of coming up over the edge of the water. If that was up a little bit, if that was up one more block, then the rotor would be too far outside the water and it wouldn't work. But again, if you look at the GUI, you can see it's outputting a variable amount of kinetic energy. There's an idea of the rotor health, 99%. Again, it does have durability that will have to be replaced over time. Okay, so it is generating kinetic energy. So now I just have to hook it up to the kinetic generator to turn it into EU. So we just go down here, place it on the back end of that, like so. And now I think it's facing the wrong way. So all I have to do is rotate it with a wrench, like that. And there you can see it's out. It will output about somewhere between 15 to 20 some odd EU per tick. Yeah. And see, oh, I'm drowning. And so as you can see here, it does store up an internal buffer of energy as well. But yeah, so that will generate just a little bit over 15 EU per tick, or sorry, it's generating somewhere around 20 EU per tick. Now these RTGs, they're supposed to be generating 32 EU per tick. Wayla says they're generating 16. I'm not sure why that is, but you can see here Wayla is showing me that this is generating 19 EU, 20 EU, 19 EU, 15, basically somewhere between 15 and 20 EU per tick. So essentially 2 of these rotors, 2 of these water generators, kinetic water generators, sorry about that, will be the equivalent of one of these RTGs. So I just have to build a few more, and fortunately I have plenty of room to do that, because again, all of this is river in here, and even over here there is, you know, kind of a mass of water area here. I could just put in as many of these kinetic water generators that I might want to do, and then I can just run power out of it through cables, through underneath, and then into the base. So I think that will work really well. And yeah, so it will generate for me the same amount of power essentially, with the only real difference being that eventually the rotor will break and I'll have to replace it. But that is just iron, so that's really not a big deal. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to build some more of those. Building them is just something that just takes time to do. It's not a huge deal, but it's just something that you have to spend the time to do it. I've got to, process all the iron, make them into the various types of shafts and blocks and everything else that needs to be done. But I'm going to finish making those, and then I'll come back when I have a lot of those kinetic water generators built, and you'll kind of see what I have and how much power it's generating for me. Okay, so there we go. 4 of the kinetic water generators all hooked up and sending power into my base. I forgot to take out my filler blocks here. But yeah, so each one of these, again, somewhere between 15 and 20 EU per tick. And here's one here that is not sending power for some reason. I probably have something screwed up there. Oh no, it's not sending power because my battery buffer inside is full. Yes, so anyway, 4 of these, each one sending between 15 to 20 EU per tick. So that means I'm getting 45 to 80. That sounds like correct math. Anyway, at least about 45 EU per tick, somewhere in that area. So basically, I was getting 64 EU per tick from 2 of the RTGs, and this was sort of make up for it. Basically, all the power comes in and it goes into this battery buffer. As you can see, it is full. I'm currently processing some stuff, so I am running my ore washing plant and my macerator and my centrifuge at the same time, and as you can see, it is able to keep up with that power demand. So that is good. It's a good solution for the time being that doesn't use the RTG. It will require me to replace those rotors, as I've said. But I think that's going to do it for this episode. It ended up being a little bit longer than I was anticipating. It also took me a lot longer to make all the parts I needed. It took me a little bit longer than I thought it was going to, just because of some of the logistics of it. And in the next episode, I think I've been doing lava wrong, from what I can tell. So I am going to change how I do lava, but I'm going to do that in the next episode. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them for me in the comment section down below. You guys are very helpful in all of the information that you give me, all of the advice that you give me, and as always, I really do appreciate your support. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you next time.